Hello lovely learners, how are you all doing today? I hope you are doing well. You are welcome to our virtual learning for today. So far as we have life and the time continue to remain in the mouth and blood continue to circulate around it, we will continue to give thanks to the Almighty God, and we will also continue to learn so that in future it will help us in life. So today we are talking about circulatory system of humans, and I'm still your facilitator, Mr. Samuel Yeboah. And today we are looking at the following aspects of the circulatory system of humans. We are looking at the composition and functions of blood. We are looking at the composition and functions of blood. We'll also be looking at the blood cells. And we are also going to talk about the importance of blood clotting. And therefore, I will continue to urge you to pay attention so that by the end of the lesson, you should be able to describe the composition of blood. You should be able to describe the composition of blood. And two, you should be able to outline the functions of blood. And last but not least, you should be able to explain the importance of blood clotting. So these are our objectives for today's lesson. And therefore, I will continue to urge you to stay focused so that we can achieve our objectives for the day. Now, in our previous lessons, we discussed about the components of blood, which is the arteries, the veins, and the capillaries, as well as the blood. We also talked about the heart. But today we are looking at the composition and functions of blood. You know, blood is a fluid that transports dissolved substances around the body, and it also carries blood cells. So we have blood cells and we have the blood itself. Once again, blood is a fluid that transports dissolved substances around the body, and it also carries blood cells. Now, blood is made up of plasma and blood cells. That is the composition of blood. When you say plasma, please, I'm not referring to the plasma in the home or maybe the television that you watch in the house. I'm not talking about that plasma. I'm talking about the straw-colored watery medium of the blood. And this transports the following materials. That is the plasma. It transports the following materials: dissolved food substances such as glucose and amino acid. You know, glucose is the byproduct of carbohydrates. You know, after digestion of carbohydrates such as yam, banku, and the rest, the food changes into glucose. And amino acid is also the byproduct of protein. Proteins, you know, examples of protein, we have beans, we have meat, we have egg, and the rest. These food substances, after digestion, turns into amino acid, and these substances mixes with the blood and is transported by the plasma. We also have another materials which the plasma transports, and that is the mineral salts. You know, mineral salts, we have the calcium and the rest. It also transports substances such as hormones. Hormones are chemical substances found in the food that we eat, and mostly the protein food that we eat. That is hormones. We also have the blood protein such as fibrinogen and albumin. These are substances which the blood plasma transports in the body. Now let's talk about the blood cells. You know, the blood cells, we have three main types of blood cells. We have the red blood cells, we have the white blood cells, which is also made up of two forms. The white blood cells is made up of two forms. We have the phagocytes and the lymphocytes. These are the two forms of white blood cells. Now let's look at the other types, or the other type of blood cells. We have the blood platelets, which is also called the thrombocytes. Or the blood platelets. Now let's look at the functions of these types of blood cells. You know, the red blood cells has something in it which is the reddish substance known as the hemoglobin, which gives the blood the color, the red color. That is a red blood cell. So you can see that the blood cell, the red blood cell, is made up of hemoglobin, which makes the color red. Now, the main function of the red blood cell is to transport oxygen from the lungs to the cells and carbon dioxide from the cells to the lungs. Once again, the red blood cell transports oxygen from the lungs to the cells and carbon dioxide from the cells to the lungs. So it means that we have blood which contains oxygen, and that is called the oxygenated blood. And we have blood containing carbon dioxide, and this is deoxygenated blood, which moves from the lungs by the cells or through the tubes of the system. You know, the tubes in the system that carries out this transportation is the arteries, the veins, and the capillaries, which we looked at in the previous lessons. So that is the main function of red blood cells. It transports oxygen from the lungs to the cells and also carbon dioxide from the cells to the lungs. Now let's talk about the function of the white blood cell. As I told you earlier on, the white blood cells is made up of two components, which is the phagocytes and the lymphocytes. Now the main function of the white blood cell is that it defends the body against diseases. The white blood cells defend the body against diseases. It means that in the blood there is a certain antibiotics which is produced to fight against diseases that enters the body or the blood. See that anytime diseases attack the body, it first attacks the blood, because the blood is a very important component in our body. So when you're able to disorganize the blood, or if they're able to infect the blood, it means that the human being cannot withstand that kind of disease. And therefore, our blood is very important. So we need to take good care of our blood by eating food that can help us or that can provide enough blood for the body. So the main function, once again, is that it defends the body against diseases. And you know, it has two forms or parts, which is the phagocyte and the lymphocyte. So you can see that the phagocyte here, they are the cells present in the body that is able to absorb bacteria and kill it. That is, if any bacteria or germs enters the body or the blood, it attacks it and kills it. That is the phagocyte. And the lymphocyte, it functions by producing antibodies. That is a chemical substance to fight diseases that enters the body. And therefore, the function of the white blood cell, as I've told you, is to defend the body against diseases. Now let's look at the other cells, which is the thrombocytes or the blood platelets. The function of the blood platelets is to help in blood clotting. It helps in blood clotting. Now, what is blood clotting? Blood clotting is a process whereby blood becomes thick and hard when there is a cut. Whenever you get a cut, you see blood flows out. And you know, when blood clotting occurs, it prevents excessive bleeding or flow of blood from the body. And so we have the blood platelets or the thrombocytes, which helps in blood clotting in order to prevent excessive flow of blood when there is a cut. So blood clotting is a process whereby blood becomes thick and hard when there is a cut. And you know, when it becomes thick and hard, it cannot flow. And this is very important. Why is it so important? Blood clotting is important because, one, it prevents the entry of microorganisms into the body. For example, when you get a cut, there are these microorganisms or bacteria which enters the body to cause sore in the affected part. But with the blood clotting, the moment the cut occurs, the portion becomes very thick and hard, and therefore prevents any organisms or microorganisms from entry. And this is very important in that aspect. Now, the second importance here is that it prevents excessive bleeding, as I've told you earlier on. Blood clotting prevents excessive bleeding. And this is very good for the body in case of accident or very fatal accident. So we've been able to look at the following objective for the day. We've seen the composition of blood is made up of the blood plasma, the blood cells, and we've also seen the types of blood cells, the three main types, which are the red blood cells, the white blood cells, and the blood platelet or the thrombocyte. We also saw that the white blood cells is made up of two components, which is the phagocyte and the lymphocyte. And this produces, the lymphocyte produces antibodies which fight against diseases that attack the body, and the phagocyte also produces substances that attack and kills any bacteria that enters the blood. We've also looked at the functions, the main functions of the platelet, which helps in blood clotting. And we've seen the meaning of blood clotting, which is the process whereby blood becomes thick and hard when there is a cut. We've also seen the importance of blood clotting. It prevents the entry of microorganisms into the body, and it also prevents excessive bleeding or flow of blood when there is a cut or fatal accident. So this is where we'll end our lesson for today. For you to save data, we'll end it here, and God bless you for your attention. Keep on revising and keep on praying for your seniors. Bye bye.